Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So as you can see, I'm chilling in the motorcycle shop today. This is my regular hustle. I want to talk a little bit about masculinity again. I want to talk about male role models. Who are the dominant male role models of today, of today's youth? When I was younger, coming up in the 70s, 80s, early 90s as a young adult, there were positive male role models who you could point to that were dominant masculine men. Very, very few were feminine. Very few. There's always been gay men. There's always been real frilly, silly, prancy kind of dudes. But there was a definite difference in whether it be pop culture or just your neighborhood. There were people around you, in your family, at teachers at your school, wherever, just anywhere in society, where you could point to positive men who were dominant, who were masculine, who were powerful, who were protectors, who had all the qualities of manhood. Where do we find that now? I see so many young guys in their 20s, early 30s, who just seem lost to me. They don't really seem like they have positive male role models in their lives. You know, I can't blame younger generations for how they end up. I would guess it's my generation and the generation older than mine, Gen X and the baby boomers, who are responsible for how millennials ended up. Because these people didn't raise themselves. Most people learn from, in society, from people that are around them, in their culture, and emulate that. Pick out qualities that they see that they like, or just sort of end up the way that they end up by default through lack of teaching. You know, I didn't have a father that was around the house. My dad was gone. My dad was in prison. He was on the run as a fugitive. But he was never around. It was just me and my mom. So I grew up with a woman. And I had to go outside the house in order to find older kids or other adults that I could observe or be around in order to learn how to be a man. But it was available to me. You didn't have to go far. You didn't have to look hard. Now, what does it mean to be a man is questioned. And anytime you come up with a list, there's going to be a whole bunch of people that are offended. As if manhood is offensive. As if being a dominant alpha male is offensive. I mean, I just don't get it. It makes me feel old. I was at the gym earlier. I go to a really popular gym here in town. Sometimes it's real crowded. I try to hit it early before the crowds come. Today I was a little bit late, so I was there in a crowded gym full of people. And it's mostly young people. There'll be a couple older guys like me, but for the most part, it's just lots and lots of young people in their 20s and 30s, guys and girls. The guys, across the board, almost all the young men that work out there, some of them are real big guys, big bodybuilder guys, some of them are really putting in a lot of work at the gym, and I can really respect that. Some of them a lot bigger than I am. I'm not a big guy at the gym. I feel big next to my little skinny friends, but I go to the gym, I realize, Jesus Christ. But these guys are wearing tights. Tights! Like women wear tights. Even the shorts will be like little biker shorts that chicks used to wear. They have their excuse, oh, these are compression clothing. Shut the fuck up. Guys don't dress like that. The fuck you wearing tights for? In my day, if you were to show up anywhere wearing tights, god damn it, you were going to get ridiculed, and rightly so. Now you can't say shit. Motherfuckers are really fragile. They'll run off crying. Oh, he's judging me. He's bullying me. Maybe that's where a lot of this started, was the anti-bullying campaigns. You know, I think bullies are great. They have a necessary role in our society of keeping the suckers in line. You start acting like too much of a little bitch, and the bullies used to notice that, and their nostrils would flare, and they'd point you out and be like, you, they'd chase you down, beat you up, whatever. That was good. That's a good thing. Bullies had a necessary role. And I guess somewhere in the 2000s, there was all that anti-bullying campaign years ago that started. With all this bullshit that everybody has a right to their opinion. No, you don't. Everybody has a right to express themselves however they want. Sure, you can try, but watch what happens to you. You go running out of the house looking like a woman with your little man bun, wearing your skinny jeans pulled down past your ass. Now that's acceptable. You get your ass kicked if you look like that in the old days. And all this just shows my age, but there was an era of male dominance where boys growing up could look to other men, even if it was just in the movies, and see people like Clint Eastwood or, you know, whoever. And there was tons of them. And it's not like you would say, I'm going to be just like that. But you would have an idea of how men are supposed to act, what a man is supposed to do, even in your, you know, comedy shows like Married with Children. Al Bundy, for example. He was supposed to be a loser. Al Bundy, for back then, was slightly emasculated, not in a feminine way, but it seemed like his wife was more dominant than him. He just kind of sat on the couch, not giving a fuck about nothing, keeping his mouth shut for the most part, not trying to get involved with anything. So he wasn't really the ruler of his house in a traditional sense, but you look at him compared to the men nowadays. Look at Al Bundy compared to Iron Man, with Robert Downey Jr.'s character of Iron Man, or Captain Jack Sparrow from those pirate movies. Both Iron Man and Captain Jack are feminine, weak. I mean, oh my God. Al Bundy would slap these guys around. I just don't get what's happened to all the male role models. Where are they? I mean, where are they? People my age, I guess it's just our fault. A buddy of mine who's my age, I'm 49, he's 51, 52, he's got teenage boys. And he's one of these kind of big bearded man bun hipsters. We blame the millennials for that shit. It was my generation who invented that crap. He probably wears tights at the gym too. I know I'm talking shit about my buddy, but it's just the way it is. And he's sitting here calling his son. He's talking to his son, his 16-year-old son. And he's talking to him on the phone. I'm over his house, and he's calling him sweetie and honey. I never had a man talk to me that way. Are you kidding me? Men you don't talk to your... I'm not going to give parenting advice, but my father would never have talked to me that way. My grandfather would never have talked to me that way. My uncles would never have called me sweetie and honey. Are you kidding me? What are you raising? You raising a boy or a girl? He pulled his son out of school, so now he's homeschooling him. That was never an option when I was a kid. One of the reasons why parents homeschool their kids, now there's other reasons, but one of the main reasons is because their kids are weak little emasculated bitches that can't socialize with other kids. So the parents are saying, well, sweetie, honey, I'll just take you out. We'll teach you at home. You can learn on the computer. You don't get along with the other kids. This goes back to all the anti-bullying bullshit. You used to have to stand up to bullies. There were bullies in the apartment projects that I lived at, and they were everybody older than you. Every single older boy was gonna fuck you up. That was the way it was. When I was a kid, when I was 10 years old, you saw anybody who was 16, you better run, motherfucker. You better get the fuck out of Dodge. We would see the older kids, we'd stay far away from them because they were dangerous. They'd fuck with you. They'd take your bike, rob you, beat you up. All of them. It was the way shit was. And you learned to navigate. And if you tell your parents, not only you're just a snitch, but your mom would just roll her eyes. Your dad would just be like, whatever. It's just the way it is. Learn how to fucking survive. You gotta learn how to navigate in this world. You gotta learn how to be tough. They say boys will be boys. Now that's offensive. You can't even say that shit. They think that means rape culture. All it used to mean was boys would go out and fight. Boys would be wild. Boys would learn their pecking order in a group through socialization. Now, your little son doesn't socialize well for 1 or 2 days, and you say, oh, sweetie, honey, my little baby, talking to a teenager this way. And let that little shithead sit there and play video games all day. They had video games when I was a kid. They weren't as good, of course, but they had video games, and kids were playing them. Those kids were nerds if they played video games all day and they didn't socialize. They didn't have their skateboard or their BMX bike or whatever. They weren't outside at the park. They were in the house. They were nerds. And we teased them and bullied them because they deserved it. This is how you learned how to socialize. You learned where you fit in. You learned how to have thick skin. I just don't get who the male role models are. Who's teaching these young men how to be men? I was watching a show the other night. It really touched me. This Treehouse show. I love that fucking show. Catch it late at night. I write every night on the computer, write books, write novels. And then after I get done writing, I have to kind of unwind before I go to bed. So I give myself about an hour or so to sit there and just flip through the TV or Netflix or whatever and watch different shit. So I'm flipping through cable and I like to watch that Treehouse show. I don't know if you've seen it. It's interesting. I lived in a treehouse when I was a kid out in Oregon. So I like treehouses. And this guy is building a treehouse for this man in Texas, and he has a grandson, and the grandson's this little toddler. And they're building the treehouse for the grandfather and the grandson to both enjoy together. And the grandfather says to the man who's building the treehouse, he says, I want to build this treehouse for my grandson so I can hang out with him and I can teach him how to be a man. That shit touched me, man. That shit was just like powerful. I was like, wow. This guy, he's a fucking unicorn. More men need to do this. Teach a motherfucker how to be a man, a real man, a dominant alpha male. Not no weak little tight wearing, skinny jeans wearing, man bun having, little sissy. This guy, I guarantee you, he wasn't calling his grandson sweetie and honey. He wasn't going to let him play with girls' toys. You know, you get the boys' toys. There was a difference when I was a kid. You go to Toys R Us, there were girls' toys and boys' toys. Now it's all just gender neutral. Guys never wore pink. How many days do I see guys wearing pink now? And they wear it like it's no big deal. I remember when guys started getting earrings in both ears. It used to be you only had the one. If you had it in the wrong ear, that would send a wrong message. If you had it in both, you might as well just be a cross-dresser. You might as well be transgendered. People weren't taken to that shit too well. It evolved. Certain punk rock motherfuckers and high fashion motherfuckers would have one in both ears. Now you see these guys with big hoops with these discs in there on both ears, wearing their skinny jeans. I just don't get it. Who are the male role models? Who? Tell me who. Thanks for watching.